I'm just going to give you a quick run through what we think the new media landscape might look like in 2012, what our role is, what we're up to, and how you can get involved. Three things really that we think are important in our time frame. The increasing use of the internet in people's everyday lives. You know, people talk a lot about social media or community, but it's really just about living more and more of our lives online, where before it was post, before it was using the telephone. Now increasingly people are using a range of devices, internet connected, to do more of the stuff that they would do every day in slightly different ways online, and we see a lot more of that happening across all age groups, not just young people. Likewise, mobile we think is going to be increasingly important in our time frame, because people's expectations that the many things you can do now on a broadband or a connection or a laptop or a desktop you can do with a mobile device. You know, at the moment 40% of people who have a mobile phone use it to take a photo, about 15 to 20% use it to do something else. That percentage we think will increase, and therefore it's an important part of our mix, and we're still very much in planning phase on that, and probably interested in hearing from people's thoughts and ideas in the mobile space. And then young people, a very important audience for us, not least because we set out our stall at Singapore when we won the bid to stage the games to inspire young people, particularly to inspire young people into sport, but to inspire young people generally. It's still a core part of our vision, and we see that young people are very comfortable with technology and using technology at the same time. This is from an Australian study, but I think that what it points to is a general truth that with 1 to 2 megabits of bandwidth or less, which is what most people who have broadband in the home now enjoy, you can do a number of things ranging from email to watching, streaming video and video on demand. And it's not until you get to 10 megabits and above do you start to do the weird and wonderful things like telepresence and holograms, and none of those are really realistic mass market opportunities in our time frame. They may well exist in our time frame, they're probably in an R&D lab now, but what we see that's interesting is everything kind of 10 megs and below just happening in greater and greater numbers, so it becomes more and more commonplace. This is an Ofcom stat of kids' use of technology. Some scary bits in there, particularly around the red line in the middle, which goes up quite dramatically, is kids using mobile devices. So by age 8.5, 50% of kids have got mobile devices in the UK. By 12, pretty much all kids have got a mobile device. What we do fundamentally is provide a range of services. It spans really from contractual obligations, building a main website, which we've already done at london2012.com, and a games time results service, which are our key mandatory deliverables. But we're also delivering up to 38 projects across the whole organisation, helping various bits of the business do their bits better, and that's stuff that we've done already very quickly. Had a party for 40,000 people in August in the Mall in front of Buckingham Palace, and pretty much all the tickets we shifted online. Probably no surprise to hear that, but clearly it's a very important function for us. Likewise, we launched an education programme in mid-September, reaching or aiming to reach 33,500 or all the country's schools. Again, much more effective to do that online. Here's just a sample, and I won't linger on it much, of many of the things we've got to do. I'll explain what some of these things down the bottom are. There's a series of application at Games Time, many of which are provided in part or in whole by one of our sponsors, Atos Origin, but which help the games run. But there are many other things that we're starting to add into the mix, and I'll talk to you a little bit about social media, which I think is one of the new and interesting areas. So, as I said, about 38 different business applications, but we're looking at a series of more creative applications which will help us, we hope, engage the public. The world of people being online is very much all around us, and if we don't participate in it, it'll leave us behind and leave the Olympic movement behind. And also, at the time of the handover, we sent flags all around the country. We had this big event in the Mall. There's Michael Phelps watching the red arrows go overhead. And we had 33 screens around the country screening that event, or the whole handover event, live. And that video was used as a kind of interstitial, and is still live on the site now. People use social networking sites already to share these sort of photos anyway, so why not tap into that rather than reinventing the wheel? The outputs from it were good for us, particularly around the young people. You know, YouTube did generate a young audience. YouTube, our video was #3 in the UK at peak, in the peak week, and we had quite a lot of commentary around it. Maybe not as many assets were contributed from it as we would have liked, but I think it was fairly successful. We had about 500 photos and videos submitted, and then we captured them all, as you can see. And you can find it on our map, london2012.com/celebrate, which is a fully interactive map, which all the assets pop up, video and audio, video and photos, and so they kind of capture for perpetuity. And the significant benefit for us was that we generated another 100,000 people into a database, which is now about 370,000 strong. It plays into a wider scheme we have around. We've tried to identify a way to capture all the different things that will be happening. We thought, well, all these people are going to be doing stuff in social media. We don't want to create a social network, and there's plenty of them out there, and they'll all evolve and change. How can we capture the stuff that we're doing and that other people are doing in a way that allows them to be creative, but also create some sort of unity between the projects? And what we hit around was mapping. And what we've built to date is what we call story maps. They're at london2012.com/story maps, which at this point simply show a bunch of narratives. I think there's a couple of slides here from around the park. So there's the aerials of photos of the park embedded within our mapping. We have various stories you can follow as narratives. Fundamentally, this is our process. We really fundamentally do two different things. At the top is we provide a bunch of services and products which help all the bits of our business do their jobs better. And where those things are consumer-facing, we generate user data which allows us to do two simple things. One is to communicate more with people and help them understand and enjoy the games, and also to generate revenue, which is principally through tickets and merchandise, which are mandatory programs. It's not necessarily about, we are profit-seeking, but not intending necessarily to be profit-making. It's about generating revenue so we can fund the games, which are a pretty expensive endeavour. It's possible to get people to sign up. They may not always be willing just through provision of service. But where we think that, and speaking to the converted, where we think that this will be a more meaningful exercise is that people now expect to do more stuff. They want to have an engagement. They're happy to be creative. They're much more active than they are passive. And this concept of the map and what we're calling the brick, which is really a catch-all for activity that people do with us and share with us, it has a relevance which I'll explain in a minute. So we support all our products and services with new media marketing activities like that film. We try and place them more squarely into places where people are already present and doing stuff. We capture the best of that activity. We're quite happy for people to do whatever they want, not that we could stop them in environments where they're comfortable, but then we ask them to share that. We learn more about them as a result, but we also have a sense of engagement and a way of capturing all the different things happening around the project. So there, for example, is that handover model where we have an online ticket application, which is our function. We have some communication top left around what the whole enterprise actually was, the handover event, and top right we have the video that we created, which unfortunately the marketing people insist on calling a viral. We all know it isn't one until it becomes one, but anyway. And then we populated that into social networks with a view that people would present us with stuff that they're already creating. Adidas have come in to sponsor this. Our first sponsor has really engaged with this project. They put in some significant budget, and one of the activations we'll be working on with them, which we'll be launching in the new year, is around sports participation, which we're getting quite excited about. But we expect some other sponsors. I've been having some very interesting conversations with a few of them. The picture's changed, middle right, is that we can start to pull all this content that people have generated and given us access to, actually start to embed it in the physical environments of the games. So big screens we've already done, but we can do a lot more of. Potential around the park, budget notwithstanding, and then some really interesting opportunities. And here's an obvious one that we've kind of hit on early, that the main stadium design, and as you can see, it sits on an island, which is an interesting feature of the whole park, that it's water-based, is a 85,000-seater stadium, or 80,000-seater stadium that becomes 25,000-seater in legacy, and in its temporary shape has a fabric wrap to dress the outside, which is made up in this case of pixelated images, which we hope will have been contributed by members of the public. And there's lots of ways that might become a very live experience too, where people uploading stuff as they watch. We're not the only people procuring web opportunities, and again, that's where Compete 4 comes in across the whole project. So thank you very much.